Welcome to Parenting How Not to Suck. If you're here, I want you to know you absolutely do not suck. You're here because you want to get some good advice, some good help with whatever struggles that you're having. We all have them. And I'm really happy my guest is here today. I wish I had known her when my children were teenagers. That was probably the stage that was the most difficult for me. And the guidance at that time, our teens are going through so much that we don't even know about. And so I'm so excited here today to have with me Keri Cooper. Keri is the owner of Keri Cooper Holistic Therapy in Northern New Jersey. In her private practice, she counsels teens and works to give them the tools they need to navigate life. Keri takes a holistic approach to therapy, looking at the whole person, not just their symptoms. Keri's the author of Mental Health Uncensored, 10 Foundations Every Parent Needs to Know, a book designed to give parents steps on how to improve their child's mental health. Her second book is a workbook for teens, Mental Health Uncensored, 10 Foundations Every Teen Needs to Know. She's a speaker and a writer who helps educate teens and parents on the topics teens face in everyday life. She's a graduate of the University of Pennsylvania and continues to further her education by obtaining additional certificates in her field, one of her favorite pastimes. When Keri isn't busy working with teens, she is busy with her own 4 children and her flock of chickens. I love that. Keri, I'm so glad you're here because teens are they're complicated and every generation it's different. It was so difficult for me when I was parenting teens. I tried to think back of what it was like when I was a teen, but it doesn't help because the world was completely different. And that was the only knowledge I had as a parent of a teen was what it was like when I was a teen. Do you know what I mean?
And not only, the other thing that people have to keep in mind is once you think you figured it out with one teen, the other teen is completely different.
Yes. Yes.
Right when you think, all right, I got this. It's no, you don't. You got
right. And don't you find like when mine stepped into the teenage, it was like 1 week they'd come out and I was like, oh, who's that? Oh, nice to meet you. And then a couple of weeks later, okay, we're like, because they're experimenting so much with their own personality and
so normal.
That's what we want to let parents know, like completely normal. Roll with the flow.
The development time for that they are supposed to be trying on different personalities, different friends, different interests, different views. That is so normal. So it always drives me nuts when the parents are like, last month they said this. Their views changed.
Yeah.
And we need to give them that space to allow them to go back and forth and to change and to feel things out.
Yes, absolutely. Because their brains are under heavy construction as well.
Heavy construction,
right?
Hormones are all over the place.
Oh, yeah. Let's stop. We can't forget those.
Their brains are not fully developed. They are not small adults.
Yeah, I know. And oh my gosh, we have so much to talk about.
I know. I can talk to you all day, I'm sure.
I know. I just wish I met you like about 6 years ago. So what started you working with the teens? What do you love so much about them?
So I started working with them really because of my own teenage experience. I did not have an easy teenage experience. And teenagers do stupid things. It's part of their growing and their development. But I wish that I had that adult to talk to where I could tell them about my stupid things. And instead of feeling judged, could be like, okay, what can we do now? Or how can we help you in the future with that? So I wanted to be that person where a teen can go and not feel judged. So I've been a therapist for almost 25 years at this point. And I've only ever worked really with children and adolescents. That's the love. Right now in my office is really just high school and college kids. Those are my two populations that I tend to serve the most. And I love seeing them change and experiment and figure out life. So I am always so happy to be on their journey with them.
Yeah. It's exciting. And they need that support. They need to feel seen and safe. Not that when I was growing up, you tell my parents anything, grounded, like you're grounded for 2 months. That doesn't create that sense of safety. Not blaming my parents. They didn't know any better. We just do the best we can.
Sometimes that's the thing. Like the parents, they are trying to do the best they can. But we, as a parent with our own stuff.
Yep, we do.
It's hard to recognize that stuff and then be like, okay, what do I really need to do for my kids? I tell parents a lot. I said, you could sit here and tell them all the advice that you want to tell them. You have to walk the walk.
Yes.
You have to be able to do what you're telling your child.
Yeah.
Whether that be telling your child to go make new friends and be social. I hope you're being social.
Yeah.
Telling your child you need to sleep. I'm hoping you're sleeping. And that's a whole nother issue. Adults are not sleeping, and sleep is,
Mm,
I'm going to do my little sleep is the
that
foundation for all physical and mental health. I'm
yes.
actually a certified sleep coach as well. I work with adults in that capacity because it is so crucial.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. We're going to get there because that's such a big piece of it because I want to get into defining the holistic part of your
Yeah.
therapy. But before we solve problems, I like to talk about some because this generation, my heart goes out to this generation of teens. They are probably facing the biggest challenges of any previous generation. And so what are some of those biggest things that you're seeing that they're coming to you with these days? Mm,
Anxiety has gone through the roof. And when I first started off as a therapist, what I would see a lot in my office was ADD, ADHD, behavioral issues. Like that's who was showing up to therapy.
yeah.
Now it's 99% anxiety. Depression is,
Wow.
that's really what I'm seeing. Anxiety has taken over. And it's like, all right, when did that switch happen? How did this happen?
Yeah.
A lot of it, I'm going to blame social media. I'm going to blame the phones. Like these kids are on devices all day long, being like,
Yeah.
"Who likes do I have? And who liked my post? And who now unfollowed me?" And teenage years, you're meant to try to find your group. You're meant to like, it's a survival skill of fitting in. And now they have this device that tells them in real time, do people like you or not? There
Mhm.
are people, and you can look at Snap Map and be like, oh my gosh, all my friends are there and they left me out.
Yeah.
Like, there's just too much information and too much constant feedback.
Yes.
You're also looking at, oh, look at this person on their beautiful vacation, or this person was doing this. And you're constantly comparing and you're never feeling like you're enough.
Yeah.
And it drives this anxiety of, I'm not good enough and I don't fit in and I need to do more and I need to be more liked. And it's exhausting.
Absolutely exhausting. And when they're spending so much time on there, where's the time to figure out who they are and
Right.
what's important to them and what they enjoy? If they're constantly bombarded from the outside with all this stuff coming in, they need that time to figure out
Yeah. Not
themselves.
they need that time. They need human connection.
Yes. Physical, human,
They
in
need to
person.
hang out with friends. That is
Hmm.
something that's shifted.
Yeah.
They're more so connected via social media than they are in person. People will tell me about their friends and they've never actually met them.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's great in some ways, but you need to be out with people because especially with middle school, because now even middle schoolers have phones and all of that.
Yeah.
And also we've, as a society, switched a lot to instead of free play, instead of supervised, we're in a lot of supervised play. Like all of these kids are
Yeah.
so busy with organized sports.
Mm,
They don't have time just to hang out.
yeah.
And when they're hanging out and playing, especially when they're young, that's how they start learning communication skills. That's how they learn problem solving skills. That's how they
Yes.
learn interpersonal skills. That has all been taken away from them because we put them in all these organized sports where there's always an
Yeah.
adult dealing with everything.
Yeah. Yeah. So then how do you learn to do that if you've never been given the opportunity? And you can see how that would create anxiety. If you don't have any interpersonal skills, you don't have any problem solving skills, then of course you're going to feel anxious when you're plopped in the middle of a group of
Uh,
people in person. Oh gosh, Keri.
yeah.
So
Upon layers of what's been created. And that's when now we have this cycle of well-meaning parents are so afraid to let their kids go. And I see this a lot with college because they're like, well,
mm,
they can't survive. They can't do anything. Because these are kids who are afraid to pick up a phone call and make an appointment for themselves because
yeah,
they're so used to just being able to do everything online and not have to talk to anybody. So
yeah,
the parents are still doing all of this for them, and the parents are still making phone calls, and the parents are still negotiating roommate issues. And it's, we got to back out as parents
yeah,
and give them the skills to do this.
yeah,
Now we have a whole generation, and it's like this failure to launch generation where
yeah.
they're really struggling. I see a lot of post-college kids right now because they're really not fully adults yet. Like, they're really still struggling with more adolescent-like issues.
Yeah, wow. Wow. And as parents, listen, I created something with my son with food, right? He was a teenager and he's working and I didn't know when he was going to be home or when to cook a meal. So I was like, okay. I said to him one day, he got me. I love how they just shine a light. I said, buddy, I said, you got to think about what you're going to eat in a day. I said, I don't know when to cook, what to cook. And he looked right at me, Carrie said, I never had to.
Yeah.
because he never had to. I planned every meal, breakfast, lunch, supper, blah, 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 blah. I allowed him to do other things. Like I didn't contact his university when he enrolled or applied. I know nothing. I just say, tell me what I need to pay. So he's launching it all those ways. But the food, boy, I was spoiling him hard. And now, like, he's learning for 21. He should be making more of his own meals than he is. It comes out of a place of love
Yes.
from us parents. It really does. But we don't realize what it's doing for them, because it's also a self-esteem thing for them to feel, hey, I got this. Give them that confidence piece, right?
When you have a child who knows that they don't know how to survive independently because they can't cook, because they can't make appointments, because even we're seeing driving really being delayed as well,
Wow.
they don't have the self-confidence to then go take on the world. And all the parents that I talk to, they all want the absolute best for their children. And they're like, I want them to just say yes to opportunities and go do things, but they don't have the confidence to do any of this.
Yeah. Yeah. We have to build the confidence first,
Yeah.
right?
You build the confidence. You've got to give them that independence. They have to be able to know that they could fail at something and pick themselves back up again and try again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So how are you helping the teens to get through some of these challenges, especially with that anxiety piece? It's so prevalent.
Many layers, because of course this problem has many layers to
Mm,
the solution. So one is I educate them a lot about anxiety and what actually happens in your body with anxiety and fight or flight mode and all of that.
yeah.
And when they get the education, you see that light bulb go off. Whoa, this kind of makes sense. Because in a way, your body's actually responding correctly. It's just over responding, trying to keep you safe. So once we break that down, it doesn't feel so scary, because I'll describe all the symptoms that they're probably getting with anxiety.
Hmm.
Yeah, I get that. And oh, I'm not going crazy and I'm not going to die. And okay, because it feels like I'm going to. And I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
you're okay.
Yeah.
So we talk about that anxiety and we talk about being able to hold anxious feelings and do something anyway.
Mm, that's important.
It's really important. And the more we're able to do that, the less that anxiety gets.
Yes.
And what I tell them all the time is, especially when it comes to like school refusal, the parents are
Mm,
like, can't go to school, they can't go to school. Let's make a plan with the school. And again, the school, well-meaning as well, being like, all right, let's start them with an hour a day. And it's, wow, what you're telling them is that there is something to be scared of and they could only do it for an hour a day.
mm,
You're actually sending the wrong message.
yeah.
So there's a lot of different layers to it. We're in my office and we're talking about anxiety. We're talking about problem solving. And one of my favorite things that I say about problem solving is real problems have real solutions.
Yeah.
If this is an imagined problem, we can't do anything about that. So
Mm,
tell me, what is the actual problem, not what may happen.
yes.
Bring it back to the present moment.
The what ifs.
The what ifs will get you every time.
Yeah, absolutely. And hey, for adults too.
Absolutely.
Anxiety is increasing in adults as well, right? And it's really important to break down and for everyone, adults and teens included, to understand those physical symptoms of anxiety and what is bringing them on. That's so important. Now, let's get into what are some of the other things that are typically missed when anxiety or any other mental health issues are happening.
This is where we get to the holistic piece.
That's right. It's so important.
My book is 10 chapters and 5 of them are physical.
Yeah.
They are so important. If you are not sleeping, eating, hydrating, exercising, and having some type of mindfulness meditation,
Hmm.
your mental health and physical health are going to suffer.
Yes.
And that is true, not just for kids, but for any human being.
It's so true.
You have to get those foundations down.
Hmm.
Have to.
Yeah.
Sleep needs to be prioritized. There is such an issue with sleep in this country, really all over the whole world. You turn on
Yeah.
the TV and you just see ad after ad, at least here, ad after ad for sleeping pills and
Mm,
every sleeping gadget out there, which by the way, you don't need any of those sleeping
no.
gadgets. So I actually got trained to be a certified sleep coach and I actually work with adults, because if the parents aren't sleeping, the trickle down effect that I see is that now they have less patience.
Yeah.
They don't have the capacity to do what I need them to do in order to get those good foundations in the house. And it trickles down to the kids.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
It's really challenging, but sleep needs to be prioritized. And it's so funny because when they're at the toddler stage, like we get it. Everyone gets
Yeah.
it. Your kid melts down in a restaurant. You're like, oh, they missed nap time today. And everyone's, oh, yeah, I get it.
Totally makes sense. Yeah.
Meanwhile, your grumpy teenager comes home from school and everyone's, oh my gosh, they're so moody. Or are they sleep deprived?
Yes. Absolutely. Because sometimes don't you find their clocks get reversed? That happened to my son. Like
Yes.
because of devices up till all hours of the night, and then can't go to sleep, and then is groggy the next day. And what I found is I can tell them, maybe you should look at, but I don't know anything. As a parent,
Right.
I don't know anything. He figured that out on his own through some struggles,
Yeah,
right?
parents were telling me that. They're like, we're reading your book, but I can't say it to my kid because they don't buy it. Because they buy it when they're in my office. And that's why with the workbook, like the chapter of sleep, it's the research behind sleep. It's
Yeah,
now, all right, track your sleep and write down how you feel because they have to have that ownership.
they absolutely do. Yeah.
But they also need to see their parents prioritizing sleep.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And not on devices all the time as well.
The best is in my office, kids are they just put it out there what they say. You know? So I'll have a parent and a kid in my office, and the parents, you're on your phone way too much. And the kids, you play Candy Crush for 3 hours a day. And I look at the parent,
Yep.
well, do you? And they're like, yeah.
But yes, pot calling the kettle black. And so part of this is the parents are using it, I think, it's relaxing, right? I'm going to play Candy Crush because it relaxes me. I'm going to watch funny cat videos because it relaxes me. But that's a myth, is it not, Keri? Like,
Absolute myth. That's not what relaxes you. And that's also not what builds you up.
that's true.
You have to do things that you enjoy. Do you need to be doing something every second of the day? Of course not. But you also need to be able to model for your children that it's
Mhm.
cool to sit on a chair and look out the window.
Yeah,
Your brain needs that downtime.
absolutely. Absolutely. So important.
And I tell parents, set up your house to where it makes sense. Like when you walk into your living room, instead of first thing getting on your phone, have games in your living room.
Hmm.
Have books in your living room. Have your kids walk into the living room and seeing you do something that's not on your phone.
Yeah.
Because listen, those apps, they are meant to be addictive for both
They were,
parents and kids.
yeah, they were scientifically designed to do that, to be addictive. Hmm.
So I know for me, like I have to be on social media for work and I can't stand it, but I don't have any of those apps on my phone anymore.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to be mindful and say, okay, on Thursday morning, I'm going to sit down and go through my stuff for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So it's teaching that to the kids too, that you don't need to be looking at this stuff all day long. Their notifications go off left and right. It's so distracting. It's so anxiety producing when it's like, ding, like your body, what's happening?
Yeah. Yeah. I know. I have mine on silent, just vibrate. I don't, and I have to be on social media for work too now, and not my bag really.
Yeah.
So I just literally get on there, post something, and then shut her down. Like I connect with some friends on Messenger. There's so much more to the world, to life, and how are you going to see that if your face is in looking at a screen all day? How, and I think too, it makes it more difficult for the teens to figure out what is their passion. What is their interest, that thing that lights them up, that fires them up? And for adults, this is for everybody, I'd say. How are you going to discover what lights you up if you're looking at what everybody else is doing?
Yeah. Not just the phones that kind of take that away. It's also your kids being overscheduled.
Oh, yeah.
That's a big issue that's happened in the last few years. Years ago, you did not have these small children on these types of schedules with competitive sports and stuff like
No.
that. That just didn't exist.
Hmm.
And now it's like the norm. And there's an issue with that.
Yeah, there is. And I think the change has been like years ago when I was a kid, you just go outside and play, don't come home till you're hungry or the street lights come on. But now today, there's this underlying fear in communities. You can't allow your child to do that, right? So I think that's one of the reasons parents are getting the overscheduled. Oh, they like dance. Let's put them in dance. They like this. Let's put them in this. I understand it all comes from love and you want them to have fun and physical activity and build those friendships. But there are other things out there in the community that don't have to be scheduled.
But it also comes from, again, like social media, because the parents are on it keeping up with the Joneses. Kid is doing this and their kid is doing that. And I want to give my kid every opportunity. So they need to be doing this and they need to be doing that.
Yeah.
And that's what it really, a lot of the drive,
Yeah.
that you want
Yeah.
to make sure you're giving your child, again, from a good place, you want to make sure you're giving your child every opportunity like everyone else has.
Mm.
But I will tell you, I don't know how, but somehow I work with a lot of sports players, a lot of kids going off to college for sports and stuff like that. And it is always so sad to me by the time I see them when they're in their junior or senior year of high school and they're looking at me going, Keri, I don't want to do this sport anymore. I'm burnt out. And it's, oof, now you're getting offered scholarships to go to school though for this. And this is
Yeah.
what all these years were for. And you're telling me I don't want this anymore. And I said,
Wow.
then let's get out of it.
Yep. Let's pivot. Absolutely.
Yeah. Got to be happy.
That's the first and foremost thing. Like, I had my kids involved in stuff, but I always said, okay, when you're done, and doesn't matter to me, like I'm not living half the things that my kids wanted this schedule type thing, but we always made sure we didn't overschedule. They had to have time to just do nothing, to hang out with friends, because that's where they build, like we said earlier, those skills, and having those skills naturally reduces the anxiety that everybody's happening. So what are some of the things that parents can do to help get the kids having more of those personal interactions, more of that autonomy and control and independence that they need, and more of the, I think it's out in the community. What can the teens get out there and do? Where can they go hang out and be together? I don't know if that exists very much anymore.
I mean, it still does. They, at least around here, they do still go into town and hang out and you go to your pizza place or for ice cream or whatever, which is great. But I think it's also about the parents looking at the schedule and saying, what do we really need in the schedule and what don't we actually really need in the schedule? And asking
Yeah.
the kids too, what do you really love and what don't you love? And let's go through it and see where can you really have some downtime, and also what interests do you want to start exploring and how do we do that, and what's around
Yeah.
for us to try.
Yeah. And I found it can get to a point too where if they're on the screen so much, they don't even know,
No.
right? I don't know what I like to do. So how do you help them figure that out? What are some of the things strategies or
I always say, think back to when you were really little. What did you like to do?
Mm,
And start from there
yeah.
and see what that kind of brings up. One of the really great things about COVID, there wasn't much great about it, but
Yeah.
the great things was that all of those crazy schedules stopped. And I
Mm,
actually started seeing kids pick up really random hobbies, which was so cool. Like one was like, I decided to start like woodworking. Oh,
awesome.
okay, awesome. Another one decided to learn a foreign language, like on their own. And I was like, this,
Love it.
like one was like baking, like they started picking up other things.
Mm-hmm.
And I told the parents this, don't say, did you do that today? Don't say like, where are you with this project?
No,
No,
do that.
because now they're not
That's right. Exactly.
them in their timeline and they're doing it for them. You could
Yes.
ask questions about it. Oh my gosh, how's it going? Tell me about it. But don't start being like, well, you told me you were going to start baking every Sunday and now you're not. No.
Yeah, no, please. That makes it a job.
It makes
Yeah.
it a job. It makes it
Yeah.
short. Don't do that to them.
Mhm. Yeah, that sucks the passion out of it. And Keri, I think it's also important too that the parents pursue a passion of their own as well as modeling. That
Yeah.
I did not do that. I'm guilty. Did
I
not
just
do that.
started embroidering and learning that,
Wow.
which was so fun. And then my daughter actually was sitting next to me and learning too. And you got one of those embroidery kits, learn how to, and it was so fun.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so great for everybody's mental health and so great for connection with each other that it doesn't involve a screen.
Yeah.
Yeah. So parents really got to look at that to how they're modeling. Like you said, modeling with the physical parts of the sleep and the eating and the exercise, but also modeling, following that passion. Because isn't that what we all want for our kids?
Yep.
We all want our kids to follow their passion and be happy, but happy means a lot more than just happy,
Yeah.
right? We want them to feel fulfilled, empowered, confident, like they can go out there and take on the world. Like you said, your parents are saying that to you, right?
Absolutely. Parents, like they want the best for their kids.
We do. We do.
We just all mess up on trying to get there. And that's
And that's okay. It's the name of the show, How Not to Suck, right?
perfectly okay. There's going to be moments where you suck, and that's
Yeah,
okay.
that's okay. Yeah,
Mhm.
because it happens to all of us, right? It happens to all of us. I love that. So let's get back to the brains. Is there any other like little tidbits that the parents should know about their teens and their brain development? We
It's
touched on a
messy.
bit.
It's
Yeah.
messy. It's a messy place, and that's okay. That's how it's meant to be.
Yeah.
Uh, but to really try to take a step back and don't try to solve all their problems for them. That's another issue with having those phones is that
Mm,
they're in class and they get into a disagreement with a friend and they are immediately texting their parents, "Oh my gosh, what do I say?" And the parents,
yeah.
well meaning, "Oh, tell her this." And it's take a step back and say, "What do you think you should say?
Yeah.
What do you want to say?"
Help them follow that guiding light of their own intuition.
And that's the same, especially in high school when there's issues in the classroom or with grades or homework. You need, as a parent, to take a step back
Yes.
because you cannot be emailing their college professors, even though many parents are. You can,
Which, like,
let me say this again very loudly,
yeah.
not be emailing their college professors.
Yeah. Not good.
It
Not
is
good for them.
not okay.
No, it's not okay. It's not good for their self-esteem. And that's why parents have to start earlier. That
And if you
gentle.
start in high school, it's an easier transition for them. And I have a lot of
Mhm.
parents, and this is what they say to me. I can't step back in high school. They won't get the grades that they're currently getting. And then I say to them,
Mhm.
then the grades they're currently getting are not the grades they really should have. And
Yeah.
now you're going to go to a college that's going to be too hard for them.
Yep.
And you're set.
Absolutely. Setting them up for failure. And no parent wants to do that. No parent wants to do that, but it's unhealthy helping almost,
Exactly.
right?
My phone rings off the hook come December because the first semester grades have come out for college.
Mhm. Yeah, and the stress.
And the stress and the kids who are always at grade in school are now failing.
Yeah, because
Mhm.
they didn't have that. And that first semester of college is hard.
Transition.
But they have to live with the consequences of that, right? And buck up.
Yeah.
And no one's gonna they shouldn't have that spoon-fed, "Oh, I'll help you with this project. Oh, I'll help you write this paper." No, you
Yeah.
have to make those mistakes.
Out on their own. And listen, if that means that they're getting C's instead of A's, then that's
Mhm.
where they're supposed to be.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
okay.
that's perfectly okay because that was the fire that ignited me my first semester at teachers college. I was a straight A student and I looked at December, I had C's. Oh, I was like, this, what's happening? So what did I have to do? I had to buckle down, get some study groups on the go, and I had to do that all myself.
I had recently one kid who was in high school and the parent was so on top of them about their homework and checking their grades and you didn't hand this in and well, you have a test tomorrow. And they were so on top. It was causing so much friction between them. The kid
Mm,
was not really doing great. And I said to the mom, you got to step away. You got to step away from this. Stop
yeah.
checking grades, step away. And she's going to,
Hmm.
it's not going to work. I said, step away.
Yeah.
That child ended with mostly A's and B's after that parent stepped out because
Wow.
they felt ownership of it.
Yes. And they didn't feel nagged all the time.
They made people mad of its own.
That doesn't make anybody feel good.
And when it was purely their ownership, they couldn't then turn around to their mom and be like, "You didn't help me study for that test," or
Mhm.
"I needed help and you weren't home." Like they took all the ownership back. There was no one to blame but
Yes.
themselves.
And that's powerful.
And that
And that's what teens need is that ownership, that autonomy, because that builds as self-esteem and intrinsic motivation.
absolutely.
And I know there's not a parent out there of a teen that wouldn't want to see their child, sorry, teen, they don't like to be called children, I get that, their teen, not have intrinsic motivation to follow whatever pursuits,
That is
right?
the question I get in my office. How do I motivate my child? And my
Can't.
answer is you can't.
Hmm.
You simply can't. I could tell you a lot of ways that you're probably unmotivating them, and that but you cannot motivate. And actually, there's been a lot of research on motivation in the business world and all the time. How do you motivate somebody? It's not from the external rewards.
Nope.
It
It's
just
intrinsic.
isn't.
It's impossible.
It's impossible.
Hmm.
And listen, as a parent who just wants to see your child succeed, it could be very hard waiting for them to get that motivation.
Yeah.
It doesn't always kick in high school. It doesn't always kick in college.
Yeah.
And that's okay. But if you don't force it, eventually they will get there. They're all on their own timelines and they're all on their own paths.
Yes, absolutely. Because and you can't push it. I think what parents can do is set an example,
Yep.
help them follow their passion, give them different experiences, variety of experiences, but ultimately stepping away so they can figure it out, right?
It's a
And
scary thing to step away. These are our children and our
I know, I know. And
I get it. I get it. But
mhm,
you also have to have a confidence in yourself as a parent that you've raised them well enough that they could do this.
yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And we can model, right? Because the schools don't help with the motivation. Come on, Kara,
Oh,
let's be realistic. I was in the school system. Now I taught elementary, but the curriculum overload and they taking away all of the. When I was in middle school, we used to have graphic arts and woodworking and metalworking and
yeah.
sewing and all the things, right? That for teens to explore. And they've taken, I don't know what's like in the States, in your state, but I know in my province, all gone pretty much.
We're starting to see some of it come back, which
Yeah.
is really nice. But they don't have the time to explore their passions. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And they really need it. And they also really need those very fundamental life skills. Like they should come out of high school knowing how to sew a button onto a shirt. Like they should.
Yeah. Or cook an easy meal,
How to,
right?
I can't tell you how many babysitters I've had where I'm like, oh, just throw this in the oven for them. And they look at me like, how do I turn on the oven? I'm like, you're 16. You need oven on.
Yeah, this is maybe a skill. Yeah, those life skills, right? So important. And what I tell when I coach parents, I say, listen, even when they're young, it's a time of connection. It's not that you make the chore chart and you force kids to do things before they're. I know, get rid of the chore charts, people. Don't get the chore charts. I said, approach it like a team. If you don't feel like you're having enough time to spend with your kid, your teen, sorry, teens, well, bake something that they love together. Just do things together, no matter what it is that incorporates some of those life skills.
That actually brings me to a really important part that I always talk to parents about is family dinner.
Always did that.
We're losing it.
I
Like
know.
it's disappearing and it is so important.
It is.
The research behind family dinner shows the more times a week you have dinner as a family, the less likely your child will be on drugs, the less mental health issues your child will have, the better their grades will be.
Yeah.
This is all factual.
Yeah.
Have family dinners. And again, this goes back to, well, everyone's so busy. I get it, but you got to make time. And
You
even
gotta
once a week to start there. It's
start
also
there.
because you're hopefully making a dinner and your kids are now being forced to try different types of food because picky
Yeah.
eating has gone through the roof.
Oh gosh, that's so annoying,
I
right?
have way too many post-college kids now who will call me and be like, Keri, I have to go to a work dinner and I just eat chicken fingers and I'm not sure what to do. Yeah.
Gosh.
Yeah. You can't eat chicken fingers at your work dinner.
Wow. That's
And
and
parents have always catered to them because, oh, they're picky and I want them to eat something.
they won't starve. Like I learned that when they were toddlers. So they threw it on the floor. I worry about it. And then I had a friend say, they're not going to starve.
Yeah.
We're going to eat, right?
Yeah. And I'm not for forcing them, but they have to try things.
Have to have
And they're
those
not-
experiences.
They're not on the plate.
Yeah.
So when I make dinners, I do try to incorporate some element that somebody's going to eat from the whole meal. He doesn't really love pasta. I'll make sure I do pasta and some type of protein and all that stuff together. But you got to try stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And just the benefits of sitting together, connecting together for physical health, for eating more slowly, because a lot of teens, they're eating in front of a screen. So they're not taking that mindfulness piece of what does this even really taste like? Do you know what I mean?
When am I full?
Yes.
They're not getting that signal because they're eating so quickly and they're not eating mindfully.
Yeah.
So now we're having a bunch of kids who really don't even know when they're hungry or full.
Yes. Listen, we could talk for about 3 days, I think, Keri. I think we'll have to book another one of these.
Yeah.
And you'll be happy to know coming up on the show, I have a couple of nutritionists that we really dive deep into the nutrition piece and things that people just don't even know. So yeah, you'll have to watch for those, buddy, because that's a huge topic for me. So that's why I'm rolling out on it now, because I'm like, we could talk for another hour, and I want people to be able to listen to the end. So I have a couple of questions that I'm going to ask you, but before I do that, I want you to tell a little bit more about your book and your workbook for parents and
Yeah.
for teens.
Yeah, they're both on Amazon. It's Mental Health Uncensored, 10 Foundations Every Parent Needs to Know. And it's really simple, straightforward advice on what you could do now to help
Love it.
their mental health. And then the workbook for kids, Mental Health Uncensored, 10 Foundations Every Teen Needs to Know, is literally what I wrote in the parent book, but where the kids can grasp it, understand it, and also track their own progress and well-being. I have an
Yes.
entire section about like friends and expectations. And there's this whole diagram about what to expect from different levels of friendships. And
Love it.
something I hear in my office all the time. So it's great for them to be able to go do that on their own. But if you get them the workbook, please do not say to them, "Did you do the workbook? What chapter?"
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Throw the book in their room. They'll get to it.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Because for me, it was the hardest stage of parenting, really, the teen years. And I think a lot of people feel the same way. So I'm so glad you have these resources for parents and for the teens.
And they can always reach out to me too. I'm Keri Cooper, Holistic Therapy, and I do therapy with kids, but I also do parent strategy sessions where it's like
Yeah.
a meeting with parents and what's working, what's not working, and let's give you some tips on how to get there.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll have all those links in the description for everybody, so they'll know how to find you. So
Great.
now I have some personal questions that I like to ask all my guests
Great.
at the end that I did not send you, because I really want people listening to get to know my guests
Yeah.
on a personal level, not just professionally, because in our business, that's what we do. We connect, and people need to know who we are. So my first question is, what is your definition of a fulfilled life?
Mm. For me, it is having new experiences. So I'm a big believer in travel, even if it's just
Mm,
to a different town or different state. Like
me
I
too.
need to see different things and experience different things, especially food. I'm a big foodie.
Me too. Yeah, that's awesome, and such a wonderful thing for teens to do too,
Yeah.
getting out of the hometown. I know growing up in a small town can be like, yeah. I love that. Okay, so how old are your kids now?
17, 15, 13, and 10.
Wow, you're right in the middle of it all,
And
busy
yeah,
lady.
that's of all of it.
So how will you know that you did a good job raising your kids?
If they're content with their life.
Mm,
I'm
yeah,
not even gonna say happy. I'm just gonna say content. Are they just content?
yeah, yeah, exactly, because nobody's over the moon happy
No,
24/7.
and
That's
that's not the goal. Life is
no.
down. Just are you content?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
That's the big one.
Yep, I love it. So we all have challenging times, as we know. So what's something that you tell yourself when you're going through a challenging time?
One that it's gonna pass.
Yeah.
Nothing is forever. It feels like it's forever. And then I do this thing where I think to myself, is this going to matter in 5 days? Is this going to matter in 5 months? Where does it really impact my life?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Just taking the different perspectives of it, because it's going to look different in those time frames. Absolutely. I love it. So we have so many wonderful things from this conversation, and you don't have to pick just one, but what is like the most important thing right now that you want parents to know?
I want them to know that it is hard for everybody and that they should not feel like it's just them, that this is
Mm.
just challenging. And not everybody always says that. A lot of people are like, "Oh, it's great. It's great."
Oh, I know. I hate
It's
that.
not.
It's not.
Everyone is struggling. It's really not just you. And the
Yeah.
reason why you're struggling is because you care.
Yep. Hence the name of the show, right?
Yeah.
You care. You're here because you care, and you don't suck. But
You don't suck.
we all have those challenging times, and I think
We all have those moments.
we've shared so much good information that is gonna help some people, so that makes me happy, Carrie. So you guys can find Carrie on her website. You can find her on Instagram. All the links will be in the description. And I also want you to send me the links for your book and your workbook. Those have to go in the description as well.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Awesome. So everybody, thank you for being here. Share and subscribe. This is the first time I've said this. Just helps it get out to more people, guys. Have a great day. Bye, Keri. So glad you're still here. You do not suck as a parent. But I want you to know about something that we've created. The coaches and the experts that you see in this show, we've gotten together and we've created a community. It's called the Powerful Parenting Collective, where you as a parent can enter our group and have access to many of the experts that you see on the show, to private message them, to have a quick little video chat before you decide to hire them to help you in your parenting journey. Or maybe you decide not to do that. I want you to think about a community that is supportive, that will have events for you, free workshops, free information, and a place where you can really connect with the different experts that you've seen on this show. So click the link below and join us. Basically, think of it like a shopping mall for parents. We hope to see you there.